Hi, I'm Femi OK, and you're in the stream. The Zika virus outbreak in the Americas has been declared an international health emergency by the World Health Organization. So we want to unpack more about the virus, understand it better, and the threat that it might pose. We have 4 experts lined up. They have a lot of stamina. They are waiting for your questions. Malika Bilal, our digital producer, has a lot going on her laptop. Share.
And it's a good thing because there are lots of questions online. I will say that before the show started, I was pretty misinformed. I was very nervous about the Zika virus.
Sure.
And after going through our community members and their questions, their comments, I feel like I know a lot more. And that's because we're hearing from doctors and also experts. So have a listen to the video comment of Sonia Shah, one of those experts.
Zika is not emerging in isolation. Over the past 50 years, we've had over 300 infectious diseases either newly emerge or re-emerge into new places where they've never been seen before. So in addition to Zika, we've had dengue, we've had chikungunya, we've had West Nile virus, we've had SARS, we've had Ebola. These are all new diseases, and it's interesting to look at why that's happening.
Well, the why of that comment is at the heart of today's show. So we want you to join our conversation as we explore the answers to your questions. Just tweet them with #AJStream.
I'm Peter Pitts. I'm president of the Center for Medicine and the Public Interest, and I'm in the stream.
The World Health Organization says the explosive spread of the Zika virus is an extraordinary event that constitutes a global public health emergency. The mosquito-borne virus has been reported in 23 countries across the Americas and is being linked with a surge in the number of babies born with abnormally small heads. Now, the WHO predicts that there could be up to 4 million infections in the coming year. Currently, there's no treatment for the spreading virus, and while a number of institutions are scrambling to develop a vaccine, it's unlikely to be available for wide-scale use for years. So to help us understand the virus and what's being done to stop it from spreading, we're joined by Tara Smith. She's an infectious disease epidemiologist at Kent State University College for Public Health. Dr. Benjamin Neuman is a virologist at the University of Reading. María Alejandra Cárdenas is a regional legal director with the Women's Link Worldwide Group in Bogotá, Colombia. And Dr. Mustapha Debboun is a director of the Mosquito Control Division at the Harris County Public Health and Environmental Services. That's an area that has seen 7 confirmed Zika cases. So, experts, it is great to have you here. Meanwhile, back at Malika's laptop, get started with the community.
Right, the questions are coming in. So this is the watcher who asks, where did the virus originate from? Now, as I mentioned, because we are getting responses online, he got one from a Dr. Ian McKay, who says, a strain of Zika virus was first found in Uganda in 1947. So my question to you, Tara, spinning that a little bit, is how did it come to the Americas?
Right, well, Zika was first found in Uganda in 47, but there appear to be 2 different strains, at least 2 different strains that we know of, an Asian strain and an African strain. So the one that was first found in 47 was probably the African strain. The one that we've seen causing outbreaks in Yap Island in 2007, in French Polynesia in 2013, and currently in the Americas is an Asian strain, which appears to have diverged from that African strain. So we don't know exactly how it got here, but there is some suggestion that it may have come from recent sporting events that have been held in Brazil.
Aha, like the World Cup, for instance.
Right, the World Cup, right. And a different boating event also that was held there.
But we don't know for sure.
No, we don't know for sure.
Ben, how sick do you get?
Yeah, not very sick. So 4 out of 5 people who get Zika don't know they've got Zika, apparently. And this disease is massively underreported. So if we went out and looked for the disease afterward, you'd probably find a lot more cases than are actually appearing in the news. And that makes it really difficult to actually track down what's going on, I would say. The worst most people would get is a little bit of a rash and fever. The fever goes away in a couple of days. And actually all traces of the virus are out of your body about a week after the symptoms start.
Where would the rash be? Could it be anywhere?
I've seen it on the back for the most part.
Really? Okay. Now we've made all the hypochondriacs looking at the back.
Looks like a
Really?
heat rash,
Yeah,
just like
okay.
your kids get all the time.
All right, Milika.
So, Femi, Ben said you don't get very sick, but there is a question online, Ben, I'll give to you. Someone wants to know, can it be contacted by having physical contact with an infected person?
So far, there's one case where that might have happened, and even that one's not completely sure. So the case was a researcher who came back from Africa and possibly infected his spouse. And they think it was sexual contact, although if they're in the same room, there's a chance that there's a mosquito there that bites them and transfers a little blood, something like that. It's at least possible. Anytime the virus is in you, there's always a way, if you get enough bodily fluid from one person to another, to transmit the virus. It's just not very efficient, though.
All right. Let me just bring in Mustapha here. Mustapha, I'm seeing so many articles with pictures of mosquitoes, but is it a particular kind of mosquito that we're talking about? And are they using the right pictures in all of the stories that we're looking at?
Yes, the mosquito that we're talking about is called Aedes aegypti, and it's the yellow fever mosquito. And it's a mosquito that breeds in man-made containers or even the natural containers, but it's not a mosquito that breeds in ponds or large bodies of water. It's a mosquito that likes to breed next to our human homes, like for example in tires or in pails, buckets, jars, or even small containers that holds water. And they are also a daytime biter. So they're not like some of the other mosquitoes that bite at night. So this is the problem with Aedes aegypti, is that it's pretty much right next to our homes, inside our homes, or in front of our backyard, in front yards and backyards. So we can do something about it by just removing the habitats where they breed.
And it's not just in the tropics, though, is it? Because there are other places that you can find this mosquito, right?
Yes, it's pretty much, it's mainly in the southern, in the United States, it's mainly in the southern portions of the United States, but it is pretty much everywhere where the weather is hot and humid.
Okay.
So.
All right. Alejandra, you have seen women who have Zika virus or suffering from it. What do they look like? How are they doing?
Well, as the doctors were explaining, a lot of women don't feel any symptoms. But just yesterday, there was a woman who was pregnant and she presented all the symptoms. And she was complaining because she went looking for healthcare attention and they just told her that she had the flu, even though she was living in one of the places that are, it's most infected areas. So she just was sent back home without any diagnosis, without being monitored, and she's pregnant right now. And that's what a lot of women in infected areas are going through. They are getting to healthcare centers, and then they're just being sent back home without any treatment or any information.
Ben, you look concerned about that. Why?
Absolutely.
Well, we're highly concerned because if women don't have information and if they are not fully diagnosed, they cannot make decisions about their reproductive life.
Sure.
They cannot decide whether they want to continue with the pregnancy or not. If they don't have the information, they don't know what decisions to make.
Absolutely.
And if they decide to continue with the pregnancy, then they need information on how to minimize the risk of microcephaly, and they need information on how they'll deal with a baby with microcephaly. And states throughout Latin America should be providing women all the information they need to make decisions about their reproductive life. And they should be getting women access to contraception, access to education, and access to abortion and maternal health when they need it.
All right, so Alejandra, as you were talking, Ben was looking very concerned. Ben, why is that?
Absolutely the same reasons. I mean, if doctors aren't the ones who are telling the truth, to their patients, that just seems like a breach of their duty. Yeah.
Well, Alejandra, you said that, of course, these things should be made available to these women. This is a tweet we got from the Center for Repro Rights, picking up on what's happening in Brazil specifically. Brazil should respond to the Zika virus by ensuring the full range of repro rights, including legal abortion. And I think we can expand that beyond Brazil, of course. Are you seeing that happen? Do women feel like they do have those opportunities now that this is something they have to deal with?
Unfortunately not, and it depends on when they are in Latin America. Unfortunately, 5 countries in Latin America completely ban abortion, regardless of how dangerous a pregnancy can be for a woman's life or health. In countries like Colombia, abortion is legal when there's a danger for a woman's life or health. In this case, if a woman has a Zika virus, she has the risk of developing Guillain-Barré or maybe having a pregnancy that will have complications. So she should get access to that information, and a full diagnosis should be made in terms of how her physical and mental health is. And with that information, she should make a decision on whether or not she wants to get an abortion. The problem is, as I said, that most countries in Latin America have very restrictive abortion laws, and the ones that have more liberalized frames are not allowing women to get the information, or they are not allowing women to get access
Alejandra,
to
there's something
abortion.
there's something that's bothering me about what you're saying and about this whole Zika virus, and that is a connection between the virus and pregnant women. That is bothering me, and I want to show you a press conference from the Director General of the World Health Organization, Margaret Chan. This is what she said back on February the 1st. Have a listen.
The experts agree that a causal relationship between the Zika infection during pregnancy and microcephaly is strongly suspected, though not yet scientifically proven.
Strongly suspected, not scientifically proven yet. That bothers me, Malika.
Yeah, and so many people online too. That's exactly where the debate is. So we actually heard from a pediatrician speaking to us in Brazil, who says he has seen this and he thinks there is a link. So I want you all to have a listen to Anastasio.
Zika virus infections were first documented in Brazil in 2015. After the confirmation, cases of children being born with microcephaly increased many times. In one child that died with microcephaly, the autopsy showed the presence of the virus in the brain, in the cerebrospinal fluid, as well as in the heart, confirming the link.
So both Tara and Ben were nodding their heads when that was playing. Tara, you want to take that on?
Right. So there have been definitely some cases like that where they have found babies that have microcephaly and have a confirmed link to Zika virus. Unfortunately, that's not enough just to have those isolated cases right now.
What's the confirmed link, Tara? What's the confirmed link?
Well, we really need to follow this in real time. So look at mothers who are pregnant and who have a confirmed Zika infection, not just a rash, not just a fever, not just a headache, but have either confirmed virus isolation or molecular tests that show that they were actually infected for sure with the Zika virus, and then follow those women and see how many actually have babies that have microcephaly. That's one of the things that's missing right now. We have some definite evidence that is suggestive, but not really proof of causation yet.
See, this is what bothers me. Have a look here on my laptop here. From the Washington Post, El Salvador asked women not to get pregnant until 2018. Click one more time. Jamaican Health Minister urges women to postpone pregnancy as island braces for Zika virus. And officials in Brazil urge women to avoid pregnancy due to Zika virus. Ben, you're the virologist. How long would you not get pregnant for? Why 2 years? Why not a year? Why not 6 months? I don't understand
so
that.
if you could actually, if you knew that you caught Zika and you could prove that you caught it, you know that by the time your symptoms are over, the virus is also gone from your body.
Okay.
At that point, there'd be no risk whatsoever, even if it does cause birth defects, because most likely, once you've had it, you'll be immune for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Yeah. But this isn't the first virus that actually causes birth defects like this. There are things like Lassa fever and a thing called LCMV that cause the same sorts of birth defects. And going back a point, with Lassa fever, the mother almost always dies if there isn't a medical abortion. That's the only way to save the mother's life. The baby is almost always doomed in that case.
Right.
So, yeah, there is definitely a case for better reproductive rights here.
Alejandra, go ahead.
I would like to say that it is naive and even irresponsible for states just to say or just to advise women not to get pregnant. That disregards the fact that in most Latin American countries, more than 50% of pregnancies are unplanned. Women in Latin America don't have full access to contraception. They don't have the information to use correctly modern methods of contraception. A lot of women are victims of sexual assault every day. and women don't have the power within their relationships to negotiate
So Alejandra, what
whether or not to use
has this outbreak done to that debate? Because that's a debate that's been going on for a very long time about women's productive rights in Latin America. So with this outbreak, where there's a link being drawn, and there's an international health emergency, what's happened to that debate about women taking their options and having options, which many don't have right now?
Well, I would say that there's an outcry of women demanding access to contraception, access to information.
Right.
I think that women are getting tired of hearing things like this. Just don't get pregnant, but go to your healthcare center and you won't find any contraception.
Sure.
That's not enough, and that just shows how unprepared states are when it comes to this kind of crisis.
So there's an outcry, but any action? Any debate? Any way where you're thinking, okay, this will change for Latin America, for women's rights?
I think it depends on the country. I think that some states are more sensible and more sensitive towards women's rights and their obligation towards women's rights. And at least the Ministry of Health in Colombia, it's being more aware of the fact that it's not enough to just say, don't get pregnant. Yeah. And they are starting a campaign throughout the country to inform doctors of their obligations and to provide women with contraception. But we don't know if even in a country where there's political will, that will be enough. Because usually, what happens is that states don't have the resources, the budget allocated for these things.
All right, so Alejandra, this is a whole conversation that we've actually had a whole show about this. So what are you telling the women to do? What are you telling women who might be pregnant, who want to get pregnant?
Yes.
What are you telling them to do? Just briefly.
We're telling them that they should be demanding access to contraception, and they should be demanding access to information.
Okay.
If they are pregnant, they should be demanding information about all the risks that having Zika and being pregnant entails.
All right, got it.
And with that, they should be making decisions.
All right. Malika.
Well, a slightly hopeful tweet here from SMJ on that, who says, rubella in the US changed the nature of the conversation around abortion. The Zika virus can do the same for Central and South America. So we'll have to see on that one. But I want to pivot just a little bit and give a video comment to you, Mustapha. This is on what we do about this. This is Josephina, who has a question.
I have a big concern of what is happening nowadays in our countries. It is said that there are a couple of vaccines in development right now for Zika virus. What are the stages of those developments? And apart from that, is this a preventive vaccine or would be a treatment one? Thank you.
So preventative, or will it stop it?
That's a great question. There is no vaccine right now. There are vaccines being worked on. However, what's available right now is personal protective measures. Everybody, whether pregnant or not pregnant, if they can wear an insect repellent, or if they can wear long sleeve shirts and pants, and also be in a place where there's screens so the mosquitoes can't come in, all a person has to do, like for any vector-borne disease, really try to personally protect himself or herself, because the first line of defense against a mosquito or any vector that brings a disease to a human being would be an insect repellent. Because if you apply an insect repellent to your skin, you are denying the mosquito or anything to come to your skin to bite you. So I always preach that the first line of defense is usually really wearing an insect repellent.
See, Mustapha, there's a website here which is your Public Health and Environmental Services website. So you're giving people out information about the Zika virus. But of course, the big international story is about looking at the Americas and a lot of Latin America. But you have a few cases in the southern part of the US. How did that happen?
It happened because people travel. We cannot stop the traveling in the world. People go back and forth from the United States to South America, Latin America, and from Latin America to the United States. So this is going to happen. But what I say is that if you come from the South America to the United States, even if you don't know you don't know whether you have a Zika virus or not. But if you're coming from South America, where we know the Zika virus is, when you enter the United States, still wear an insect repellent. because you don't know if the mosquitoes will pick up the virus from you if you don't know if you have.
All right, so
the bottom line is either way.
Mustapha, so just because this was like a whoa, I had never thought about this. So if you come back, say you come back from Colombia, or coming back from Brazil, a mosquito in the southern part of the US, or actually anywhere where the mosquito happens to be, could bite you, and you could give the mosquito a virus.
Well, absolutely, because if you have a virus in you, and what happens with that, in say for example in Houston, if somebody comes from Colombia or El Salvador to Houston, and they have the virus in him or her, and if they're walking in the park and the mosquito is flying around and gets a blood meal from that person, they can pick up the virus, and then that same mosquito will give it to another person.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
if that happens, then we have a local transmission in the United States, in the area where the mosquito is there, but the virus was not there. But now the virus was introduced by the person bringing it to the local environment.
All right. So I think, Mustapha, you just scared everybody, basically. We'd all calm down for most of the show, and now he just scared us. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, let me tell you. No scaring. We don't have to be scared because we are prepared. We have as I said, we have the insect repellent, we have the knowledge, we just need to educate people, we need to inform people. People need to understand that we can do something about this. Can we control it 100%? Maybe not, but we can minimize the problem by doing what we can do. For example, as I said earlier, we know that the mosquito that transmits this disease lives next to us. It lives in the containers that we have in our front yards and backyards in our communities. So what we have to do as a community, as everybody together, we have to not only embark in an educational campaign, but we all have to come together and remove these habitats where the Aedes aegypti, which is the yellow fever mosquito, breeds in. And if we do that, we will minimize the problem.
All right, we got it. I'm not so scared anymore, Doctor. Not quite so scared. Malika.
Might have minimized a little bit of the fear, but there is a question here from Abbas, and Ben, I'll give this to you. He says, how can children with birth defects from the virus be cured? Is it terminal, permanent, or curable disease? And while you talked about how long it lasts in a person, I'll add on to that. Once you're bitten, does that make you then later immune?
Probably, but we don't know. And that's the big hope with a vaccine. You hope that you'll be able to give a person the virus or some piece of the virus, and then that protection will last an entire lifetime. Now, some of the most closely related viruses work that way, things like yellow fever and dengue, so there's a reasonable precedent. It could happen, but until somebody actually tries it, we just won't know. But I think what we're missing right now is a thing called an animal model. So normally when you try out new vaccines, you want to put it into an animal first and prove that you can actually stop the problem you're trying to stop. If the problem is birth defects, right now we don't actually have a mouse or a guinea pig or anything that shows birth defects after it's given Zika virus. So if you put this into people, you'd potentially be injecting pregnant women with a virus that's suspected to cause birth defects, which is, totally crazy.
May I introduce something to the discussion? We've been talking a lot about microcephaly, but there's also the risk of Guillain-Barré, and that affects directly a woman's, physical health.
And can you explain what that is, Alejandra, very briefly, because we're right at the end of this show.
I understand it's autoimmune disease, but the doctors are obviously more prepared than me to explain.
And it comes from the same Zika-bearing mosquito, Zika virus-bearing mosquito?
Yes, that's what the ministries of health are saying, that the links are not only to pregnancies with microcephaly, but to Guillain-Barré.
Right, okay. So I think that Mustapha's advice actually applies to that as well as to the Zika virus as well. See, I'm learning things. Thank you very much, doctors. So Mustapha, Alejandra, and Ben, and Tara, thank you so much for helping us understand the Zika virus so much better than we did at the top of this show. Malika, how's it been going online?
Lots of questions are still coming in. Some of them ones that we've already answered at the beginning of the show.
Yes, well, you're not paying attention.
We'll tweet them out, and there's more, of course, coming in the post show.
All right, very good. All right, so if you have questions about the Zika virus outbreak in Latin America, or actually anywhere else around the world, you want to find out more, I highly recommend you go to our post show, stream.aljazeera.com, and you'll be able to talk to our lineup of experts about the Zika virus outbreak and how to actually cope with it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Hello again, this is the Streams Online Post Show. We've been trying to get a better understanding of the Zika virus outbreak across the Americas. Yes, I think one of the reasons this has really made headlines is because of the birth defects connection that has been made. Ben, what can you tell us about the birth defects? What can we understand better? How long would a baby, what would their lifespan be like? Are they in pain? Can they do normal things once they get to 5 or 6 or 7? Will they get to 5 or 6 or 7? Those are the things that I know all mums-to-be would be wondering about.
Yeah, some people are more or less okay. They have a differently shaped head, and you know, all our heads are a little different. That's not so bad. But for some of the babies on the other end of the spectrum, yeah, they actually are either stillborn or die very quickly after birth. It's not so much the head size that's a problem. It's the fact that the brain is much smaller and is malformed inside that head.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are things sort of like epilepsy, seizures, you can have quadriplegia, real learning difficulties. It depends, but it's an awful thing.
Another question here for you, Mustapha. This is from Dr. Judy Stone, who says, it's not going to be a widespread killer. Most people infected have no symptoms or a mild rash, something that all of our panelists here today have let us know. But she goes on to say the other big misconception is people's fear of using genetically modified mosquitoes to fight the outbreak. Now, of course, you're the Mosquito Control Division head, so is that a chance to actually deal with this, genetically modified mosquitoes?
Yes, I mean, that's just a tool. It's been studied that we can use to fight the mosquito. That doesn't mean we're going to go for that right away to use it. And a lot of times, there's only been a few studies that are still working on these genetically modified mosquitoes. And one has been done in Brazil, and the other one has been studied in Florida. But to accommodate those tools and those augmentations, they really have to go through a processes. And we don't use them right now because there's still more data to find out about and to make sure, you know, like not only that they work 100%, but that's a tool, the tool that we have. And nobody has to be really worried. Some people are scared about that. But if it comes to a point of a disaster, if we have an epidemic, we have a huge disaster, we might have to go to use those genetically modified mosquitoes. We don't have to. But right now, as I said earlier, what we really need to do is, you know, go to the source. We can go and if we remove the sources of the mosquitoes that breed in, like containers, tires, jugs.
Mustapha, we got that loud and clear. I think people will be like, okay, Mustapha told us, go to the source, get rid of the places where the mosquitoes will breed, where they live. Ben, I know you're about to say something. What were you going to say?
My mother always taught me that you got to try your hardest and always do the best that you can. And right now, if that's genetic modification of mosquitoes, I mean, why leave that on the table? Yeah, I know some people worry about this sort of thing, but in the end, I think the harm, I mean, the good would far outweigh the harm.
Yeah.
It's nice that the UN are finally putting money behind this. That's what that public health emergency declaration actually means. There'll be funds to do tests to figure out what's going on and to implement solutions.
Alejandra, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that this shows that this is also a matter of social justice, because the population that is most affected by the virus is the poorest sectors of the populations, which are the ones that live with infected sources of water. So this is also a conversation that should be getting us all thinking about access to clean water for most sectors of the population that are the ones that are going to be suffering the virus.
Let's do some myth-busting, experts. Anything you've heard about the Zika virus outbreak that is so outrageously wrong, you need to tell people right now. Ben, anything you've heard that it was like, that is wrong, I need to write to the editor, or call the network up? Anything you've heard?
All right, small thing.
Yeah.
So there's the notion that the WHO have called an emergency on Zika. The emergency is actually about the microcephaly. Zika is associated with it, which makes it seem a little bit more dangerous, and they may be related. But no.
I wish you told me that at the introduction of the show. Thanks, Ben. Anything else?
That's enough for now.
Right. Yeah, that's a big one. Thank you. All right, now I'm going to wander around telling everybody, you know, it's not about the Zika virus, the emergency, it's about microcephaly. Alejandra, anything you've heard that was just outrageously wrong that you would like to put right?
Well, all the doctors that are going out and saying, don't worry, don't do anything, this is just the flu, just get a painkiller. I think that's highly irresponsible.
Mustapha, anything you've heard where I'm sure you've heard it all, but anything you've heard where you thought, that is so wrong, I need to put them right on this?
No, the only thing is that there shouldn't be too much alarm and worry because, as I said, we in the mosquito business, we are ready, we are prepared. And especially in the United States, we have the means to insure and protect people. And people don't have to right away get alarmed and be worried that this is going to take, it's a virus like any other virus, as was mentioned earlier. The only big thing right now, what made Zika virus a problem, as Ben said, is that the microcephaly. If it wasn't for the microcephaly cases, it would have just been just another normal virus that's mild. And it was mild until we have the causation or the scientific evidence that Zika virus causes microcephaly, then yes, that's going to be a big problem but science and data is being trying to get together and find out if it is the case. However, there have been some cases where, for example, the virus was found in the placenta of a pregnant woman and also in some of the brains of the babies. So there is something there. I don't rule anything out. You know, it's nature. It's a virus. It can mutate. It could do something. But right now, we need to be vigilant, be careful, and prepare and take care of the problem as much as we can.
See, Mustapha, as you were saying that, you were saying there is something there, and then Ben was like, Ben, what's your gut reaction, your gut scientific reaction telling you about this link?
Gut scientific reaction, this is a genetically unusual group of people running into a genetically unusual version of the virus, and we're getting an unpredictable effect. I mean, we saw the same thing in SARS. SARS was only as big as it was because Chinese people had a particular gene that controls their immune system that was really badly set up to deal with it. Over and over. That's what I suspect, but I won't know until the paper comes out.
Yeah, the paper comes out. All right, very good. Thank you so much, Ben and Alejandra, Mustapha and Tana, who's actually now gone off to teach a class, for being part of this conversation. You taught us a lot in a very short period of time. Malika.
And affecting real people's lives, because we got this tweet from Carolyn who says, thank you all for good info on the Zika virus. This one is very scary for moms, especially poor mothers with few choices on when and if to have children.
And just remind us again, Ben, just because for me, to get it instilled into my brain, this international medical emergency is for what again?
So the WHO, you probably, I mean, most people think of them as these guys in the white spacesuits that parachute in whenever there's a virus. But actually, this is a fairly small, not very well-funded branch of the UN. Their only tools are bureaucratic, and they are throwing everything they have at the Zika virus. This just frees up money so that other people can be brought in and can actually do the research, and we can figure out what's going on.
All right. So, guests, thank you very much for being part of this program. And thank you, our audience, for watching. Take care.